So we have a new box of parts in from CIP1.com. There's some stuff in here for the starting stuff, but there's also some cosmetic stuff like a glove box and the panel that goes behind all the gauge cluster in the hood. I think there's a few other things that I've already forgot about. Fuel lines are in here too. And that hard line that I replaced, that was a brake line. That one they sell like an actual one. The previous owner put a brake line, so that's in here too, and a few other things. So let's kind of check out what's in here. And today we'll get the spark plugs changed as well. So let's go ahead and check it out. So there we go, we have 6 feet of fuel line, awesome. So they sell this in 3-foot increments. So I bought 2 chunks of 3 foot and it came as one whole 6-foot increment. Awesome, that's exactly what I was hoping they would do and not give me 2 3 feet. So really cool fuel line, that's something that we need. This one is braided, so let's take a look at this before I toss it to the side. It is braided, so it has like a cloth like on it. So that's going to be what we want for our bug. So really awesome stuff. 6 feet of it. This is that steel fuel line that goes to the fuel pump that I talked about. So this one is it's nice and not a brake line, basically. Throw that bubble wrap aside. All right, we got all kinds of cool stuff in here. We have a carb rebuild kit, so that's really important. We're going to rebuild the carburetor. We have points. I found out, and I'll show this on the car in a minute, I found out that I actually don't need points because we have an electronic ignition on this car. So we'll show that here in a moment. I should have checked that before. Distributor cap, really important as well. We have that will change. And then the rubber grommets that go over the fuel line when it goes through the chassis. So that way the fuel line doesn't get cut. This is a nice plastic glove box. I'll show that as well here in a moment. The original one's a cardboard glove box, and after 60 years, yeah, it kind of has some wear. The reason this whole thing's in this big old box too is this nice plastic cover that goes under the hood behind the wiring panel. Ours is pretty chewed up plastic. Going to last a little longer. It's not really what's original to the car, but we just want all that wiring protected, so that's what that's for as well. And there's one more thing in here, the rotor for the cap. So we'll look at that as well along with the tune-up stuff. So yeah, we got quite a few things in here. When it was a huge box, it kind of confused me because I didn't know what I ordered, but that dash cover is pretty big. So exciting stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at getting these plugs changed, and I'll show you a few other things here. So I mentioned that we have an electronic ignition. So our rotor is right here inside of the distributor, and the cap, distributor cap. Under the rotor, we have points in there normally, so it's hard to see because of this dust cap. Ours is it's called a Pertronix electronic ignition, so you don't have to change that thing. So I ordered points that are pretty cheap, but I don't have to change them. I will change this though because it ignites all the spark plugs, and this cap also ignites them, so we'll change the cap as well. Spark plugs, cap, spark plug wires, rotor. So no points on this one. And eventually we will be changing these fuel lines back out again and relocating this fuel filter to the front of the car in between the gas tank, just because it's safer to not have a fragile fuel filter in your engine bay. So it's another thing that we have to do. So yeah, we're going to do some tune-up stuff. Let's take a look at our cardboard stuff as well. So let's see. So as mentioned, our original wire cover is the cardboard, and it's in 2 pieces. I think I showed this before, but it is broken half and there's nothing covering all these wires, so it's just completely exposed. So that will be that new plastic one. Same thing with this glove box. This is cardboard and it's in pretty good shape given how old it is, but we have a new plastic one as well, so pretty cool. So yeah, those are the cosmetic things that we're starting with. Since we saw the glove box from under the hood, here's what it kind of looks like here. That cardboard, and yeah, we have gloves in there. That's that cardboard glove box. That'll be a nice plastic glove box after this. So yeah, once again, not original to the car, but a little more sturdy. All right, so we are doing the plugs and wires like I said, so we got to make sure that these are gapped correctly. So these are coming out a little tight, so I'm gonna have to just kind of make sure that they're that 0.28 that I want. So we'll go ahead and gap all these correctly. This feeler gauge has been super helpful. It helped for adjusting the valves and now gapping the plugs. I used to use one of those keychain ones all the time and I can't find it, so thankfully I have this. Yeah, all 4 of those plugs are gapped. We're gonna get those switched out now. So while this isn't necessarily a tutorial, I just kind of want to share something and document it as well. This is a spark plug socket, so it has a rubber boot in there, so that way while we're putting on the spark plugs, it doesn't come out. So if I shake this, that spark plug doesn't come out. That's kind of what that's for. So if you use a regular socket, they just won't hold on to them, and it's kind of important while we're working in here, and I'll try to get a shot of it, but it's easy to drop these into the tin and kind of lose them. You can get them with a magnet, but it's one of those things that you just kind of learn along the way. But yeah, spark plug socket, very helpful. And we can kind of see how that rubber boot held on to it actually. So it's not coming out, and that's the old one. So if we take a look at the old one, it's pretty black compared to a new one. It doesn't look, it just looks used. It doesn't look bad. So, and there's the new one next to it. Pretty cool. So we'll get all these changed out. And another tip is I change the wire as I change the spark plugs because those have to stay in the same order. So I just change them as I do each thing. I do know that one of our plugs has a Healy coil on it, it's called, because the previous owner did install that, because I think one stripped out at one point. So I'll find that one when I run into it. And another thing that these plugs come with is this little thing on the end. If you unscrew it, it reveals a screw. That's what we end up using. So yeah. And another thing that we're going to put on these spark plugs before we put them in is a little bit of anti-seize, so that way these things don't get stuck. So just put that right on the threads and then we'll get them all in. So now we can change all the plugs. Alrighty, so one done. We're gonna get this side on there. Oh, these have, they're bent, they're 90s, that's different. I think this will work though. Alrighty. Put it in, we'll follow it all the way back to where it goes. And then we're gonna do that back corner wire. These wires are black, these new ones, that's kind of cool. And I know that we're replacing the cap, but in order to keep track, we're just gonna go ahead and put them back on where they go, and then we'll replace the cap later. It's very important to not get confused while doing this. So yeah, that was spark plug 2, or 1. That was 2, and now we're gonna do 1 and work our way around. So yeah. Spark plug number 2, also pretty black, but yeah, not looking terrible. So one other thing is our little clips, I mean, they're extremely old, but our little clips have broke that hold the wires. So one of those little clips looks like, and it goes right in this hole. I might try to 3D print something. We'll see if I can. And if so, we'll see. But yeah, those little clips are kind of messed up. So we're just gonna kind of throw a zip tie in here for now to hold those wires out of the way. So just to kind of keep it fairly clean for now. Just to that wire. Cool. So there we go. All right, on to the last one. And this clip's still intact actually. So I could probably take that one off and make a model of it. We'll see if I get that done. another spark plug. This one looks pretty good too. There's that last spark plug. I might be misremembering this. None of these spark plugs have a Healy coil, so I might be thinking of our old bug. We used to have a 1973 bug that was orange, and that might have had the Healy coil. It's been a while since I've changed the plugs on this one, so that's why we're doing it. But yeah, that one looks pretty good too. So we'll get the last one switched out here. And the last thing is this little bitty wire goes from this coil to distributor cap. That one's pretty easy to not get mixed up, so I'll just leave it out for now. And then we'll go ahead and get the cap changed in the rotor. So we'll do those things now too. All right, and now for the distributor cap. New distributor cap, new rotor. Old rotor inside. So I'm gonna keep all the wires exactly where they go and just put it right on, just to help keep track of everything. So yeah, we'll pop this off. It should come out right there. We'll change that wire in the process. But yeah, it creates the spark by rotating through all of this. And it wears out over time. This doesn't look terrible to me. I don't know if I've ever replaced it. That's why we're replacing it now, just to have a baseline. But yeah, it doesn't look awful. And then for the rotor, so we'll set that down exactly how it came off. This should pop right off, and then that's the rotor. So the end of the rotor actually is what does the spark, and yeah, I'm gonna bet that this one's pretty wore out too. So once again, we'll get that all switched out. This is a dust cap, and then normally you have points in here to change. In my case, I don't have any points. I have an electronic ignition in there. It's called a Pertronix, I think. So I don't have to change the points after all like I thought. So that's in there too. And we will be replacing this fuel line soon and getting it out of the way of all this electric stuff. Cool. There we go, new cap, new rotor, new wires, new plugs. We're all good. All that ignition stuff changed. All the stuff we changed: wires, spark plugs, cap, rotor. For some reason these wires came with an extra one, and they're all on the car. So all the wires were installed, but it came with a spare one. I don't know why, but yeah, so we have a spare wire. But there we go. Okay, so we started it just to kind of see where we're at. And first of all, make sure it's still running after changing all that. So we have that baseline now with plugs, wires, distributor, all that good stuff, oil, and it's still pretty noisy. So the next step is to get that fuel pump changed. Since we are dealing with fuel, I'll take the chance just to go ahead and change the fuel lines out once again correctly and get that filter out of the engine bay. And the fuel pump could be noisy because of what's driving the fuel pump's a little rod, and it could have something in it or something. So that might be it too, from what I've read. So that's going to be the next step. And then from there, we'll look at, there's something that's like a distributor gear possibly. When we changed the oil, there was a little bit of shavings in it, metal shavings that were brass colored. So it could be something along those lines too. We're going to kind of see where we're at. We are at that kind of baseline now with some of these changes that we've done, so we're good there. But yeah, we did that tune-up on this, started to see where we are. It keeps running on its own. It doesn't die out now once you get it started, so that's pretty cool. That's working well, and there's less smoke now. So it's doing better. We're making progress, I feel. So little by little, we are getting there. So yeah, next up is going to be the fuel pump and fuel lines, and then we'll install the glove box and stuff at some point along the way too. So yeah, that's that for what we have so far today.